I want to talk about Donald Trump's health today, and specifically the fact that Donald Trump underwent an MRI last month at Walter Reed Medical Center, and we still don't know why. Okay. Why is this on my mind? Because on Wednesday, Karoline Leavitt, at the very end, the White House press secretary, at the very end of her press conference, was asked this. Quote, you recently said you checked with President Trump about why he needed to get an MRI in his recent trip to Walter Reed. Do you have any more detail on that? To which she responded this way. I do, and I'm glad you asked. As stated in the memo provided on October 10th, President Trump received advanced imaging at Walter Reed Medical Center as part of his routine physical examination. The full results were reviewed by attending radiologists and consultants, and all agreed that President Trump remains in exceptional physical health, which I know all of you will see in your own eyes later this evening when he opens up his dinner to the press, and perhaps you will see him when he signs the bill to reopen the federal government. So stay tuned on plans for that. Thank you, everyone. And then she ends the press conference. There's no more information there. This is so baffling to me. Okay, let me just go back before we go forward. The president gets every president gets an annual physical every year, okay, at Walter Reed. The White House physician usually does it. All right. That happened in April for Donald Trump, okay? He was pronounced totally fine. He was, at that point, 78 years old. He's now 79. In July, after a bunch of pictures were seen with Trump with very big ankles, swollen ankles, the White House announced, unbidden, by the way, no one was asking about this. I mean, they were asking about the ankles, but the White House sort of volunteered the information that Donald Trump is suffering from chronic venous insufficiency. Basically, his body isn't pumping blood out of his legs, his lower extremities fast, they get swollen. It's a relatively benign condition that does happen to people as they get older. Okay. Then, with very little notice, on October 10th, the White House announced that Trump was going back to Walter Reed for another physical that they described as a routine yearly checkup. But he already had the routine early checkup in April. They offered no guidance on that. All right. Then, on October 27th, Trump himself said that he got an MRI when he was there, magnetic resonance imaging. You know this. It's like an x-ray. You people know this. Here is what he said about it. He said he didn't disclose the purpose of the MRI, but said that it was perfect. Okay. And then he added this. I gave you the full results. We had an MRI in the machine, you know, the whole thing, and it was perfect. Asked for additional details, Trump added, quote, you can ask the doctors. I think they gave you a very conclusive, nobody has ever given you reports like I gave you. And if I didn't think it was going to be good either, I would let you know negatively. I wouldn't run. I'd do something. But the doctor said some of the best reports for the age, some of the best reports they've ever seen. Okay. That doesn't make any sense. Okay. I mean, so basically the president of the United States on October 10th, which is more than a month ago, underwent a second annual physical, which in and of itself is odd. Okay. We've got no explanation on that. During that second annual physical, he had an MRI, which again, the White House did not tell us about at the time. We learned 17 days later from Donald Trump. And as of November 12th, so as of Wednesday, the White House continues through Karoline Leavitt to not say anything about the MRI. Where was it in his body? What were they looking for? What did they find, if anything? I mean, I just think, look, we have just been through 4 years where we had a president of the United States who I think rightly noted the press did not ask enough hard questions about his age and mental and physical health in Joe Biden. I think that is a fair criticism. And he was 82 years old. Well, now we have a 79-year-old president, right, who will be the oldest president ever if he serves his full second term, who doesn't eat well, is overweight, doesn't exercise, has a condition called chronic venous insufficiency. We know the White House volunteered that information, went for a second annual physical, which again, annual suggests it's once a year, second annual physical in October, in which we weren't told, but we later learned he had an MRI somewhere on his body. Donald Trump says it was perfect. The White House, through Karoline Leavitt, continues to not tell us where the MRI was, why it was necessary, and what it found. I'm not a doctor. I am not suggesting Donald Trump, there's something deeply wrong with Donald Trump. I have no idea. I'm sure he's perfectly fine, but he's a 79-year-old man who follows into office an 82-year-old man who Donald Trump repeatedly says was physically and mentally out of it in the end of his term. So the idea that Donald Trump is being transparent here is utterly laughable. The idea that we should take at face value that the MRI was perfect and one of the best they've ever done, I don't even know what that means, is ridiculous. This is not a partisan issue. We need to do a better job at forcing our presidents to be transparent about their health. It is the most important job in the world. It is a high stress job. And when we are putting people who are at the end of the male actuarial table, an 82-year-old than a 79-year-old in that job, it raises the bar even higher in terms of needing to know what is going on with them. The President of the United States had an MRI on October 10th. We don't know why. And it was part of a second unscheduled trip to Walter Reed for his annual physical. We need to keep asking these questions. This is not a Democratic thing. This is not a Republican thing. I am trying to learn the lessons of Joe Biden. We need to ask these questions. We are due these answers. He is the most powerful person in the country whose salary the U.S. taxpayers pay, I'll note, and we need to know what is going on. Because if it's not a big deal, then just tell us. Okay, that's all I got for today. I always ask you to do one thing, which is hit that subscribe button. You get free content every single day, and I continue to grow as an independent news creator. Thanks.